Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at two different countries. We're going to compare Thailand to a close neighbor, Vietnam, and we're not going to get into too much detail. We're just going to do a broad overview and compare these two. So this video is designed for people who are looking to either retire or maybe digital nomads looking at an affordable country. So what we're doing is we're taking two countries that are very affordable and comparing the two to see which one might be the right choice for you. So the first category, and probably the most popular category, is going to be the actual cost of living. Now, anyone who's done their research on Thailand, I know I've got a lot of people, if not most of my people that watch the channel, follow Thailand. Thailand has a very low cost of living, and you can find hundreds of videos on what the actual cost of living here is in Thailand. As a matter of fact, we have many that we've done on our channel. However, when we're comparing the two, believe it or not, Thailand's going to lose this battle. Vietnam has a lower cost of living, I know, believe it or not, than Thailand. So if you're looking for the country, you're comparing these two and you're trying to figure out which one is the most affordable country, Vietnam is going to win it. Not by a large margin, but they will win. It is a cheaper country to live in. Now, the next category is going to be healthcare. So Thailand is definitely going to win this one. Thailand has very good health care. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who have severe injuries in neighboring countries here in Asia will travel all the way to Thailand for their medical care. And a lot of the doctors here in Thailand actually got their education from Western countries. So there is a lot of talent in the medical field here in Thailand. And I'm not saying that it's bad in Vietnam, but when you're comparing both of them, Thailand is going to win this battle hands down. But if you are planning on moving to Vietnam, if something bad happens and you really want some experts, you can always make the short journey over to Thailand and have that done because it's not that far away. Now, next we're going to talk about food, but we're not going to talk about the local food in each country. Vietnamese food is Vietnamese food. Thai food is Thai food. They're both delicious and they both have their own specialty. You really can't compare the two. So what we are going to compare is the accessibility to Western food. Because believe it or not, when you move here to Thailand or you move to Vietnam, after a while, you've had enough Vietnamese food, you've had enough Thai food, and you're going to want to go to Western style restaurants at least once in a while. Here in Thailand, they cater to expats really well because there's so many tourists here in Thailand. There's a lot less in Vietnam. They don't have as much of a choice of Western food in Vietnam. So we're going to put that win over to Thailand as far as Western food goes. And by the way, if you're wanting to know about speaking English, and we're going to compare the two countries, which country is going to speak more English than the other? Well, Thailand's not necessarily known for having a bunch of English speakers, but comparing it to Vietnam, they're going to win. There are more English speakers in Thailand than there will be in Vietnam. In Vietnam, you still will have English speakers, but it's going to be in most of the places that have a bunch of foreigners there. Tourist, expats, you name it. By the way, if you are somebody who is really looking at moving to Thailand, make sure to check out our step-by-step guide to moving here to Thailand, where we basically hold your hand and give you all the information that my wife and I wish we would have had before we moved to Thailand. There's a link down in the description, or you can click on the QR code. Next, let's talk about driving. Okay, I've always said in all the videos here in Thailand, when we're talking about driving, it's just crazy. But I wouldn't even attempt to drive in Vietnam, if that gives you the comparison. So if you're looking at which one of these two countries would be easier to drive in, okay, they're both nuts. But Thailand is a little easier to drive in than Vietnam, which will be a shocker to some of you. In Vietnam, they love to use the horn on their car or motorcycle. They're constantly beeping that thing. So if you don't like to drive with people constantly blowing their horn at you, then Vietnam may not be the place to go. But both countries, crazy driving, but Vietnam is going to win the craziest of the two. The next thing people are going to want to know about is going to be comparing housing. So housing is going to be fairly similar in both countries. I'm going to say though that Thailand's going to win this because the price really isn't that different, and it also depends on what kind of home you're looking for, such as, are you looking for just a single home with a yard, or are you looking for a condo? Things like that. Thailand is going to have a lot for you to pick from. Now we're talking about renting, not buying. We're not even going to get into that. That's another whole issue in itself. But for renting, I'm going to say Thailand is going to edge out a little bit on the selection. The price might be a little bit lower in Vietnam, but it's not going to be that substantial. Next, let's talk about learning the language. Which one would be harder between Thai and Vietnamese? Well, they're both, for Westerners, going to be extremely hard, and they're both tonal. However, I'm going to say that the deciding factor on this one is going to be the script itself, because Vietnam uses the Roman type script that we're all used to in most Western countries, where Thailand has their own Thai script, so it makes even learning how to read a lot harder. So on this one, let's just say they're both very, very difficult, but we're going to say Vietnam is going to win on being the easier of the two languages to learn. Next, we're going to talk about climate. Well, I'm going to say in Thailand, I always say it's just different degrees of hot. So it's hot year-round. Depending on where you're from, you're going to feel like it's hot year-round. But there are months that are hotter than others. Now, in Vietnam, if you go all the way up north, you're going to get the 4 seasons, or close to it. A lot more 4 season than you're going to get in Thailand. And if you go all the way down south, in Vietnam, it's really hot. So how we're going to divide this one up is Thailand, we're going to say, is basically warm year-round, and in Vietnam, depending on where you live, you can get a little bit more seasons. Now, this being said, let's talk about the smoky season. If you're not familiar with that, that is in Thailand, that is usually February, March, and April. All of the farmers are burning old crops, and all that smoke is going up into the air. And if you have any sort of respiratory problems at all, you are going to really suffer in those months here in Thailand. Pretty much anywhere you're at, maybe a few islands should be okay. But the thing is, in Vietnam, they do have bad air quality year-round, and a lot of that isn't necessarily from burning fields. It's year-round because of the actual pollution for the amount of motor vehicles they have. If you're in some of those big cities, I've been in Hanoi, and it wasn't the burning season in Thailand. I figured there wasn't going to be any bad air in Hanoi, and you couldn't even see off in the distance. It was just a big cloud of smog and nastiness. So both countries are going to have their issues with air quality. Thailand is going to be somewhat seasonal, and depending on where you live in Vietnam, it could be year-round. Next, let's look at safety and security. So we're going to talk about petty crime. So in Thailand, there is very little petty crime. Is there petty crime? Yeah, very little. However, in Vietnam, petty crime, stealing things just that you left out or whatever, is going to be a little bit higher. So just know, out of the two, if you're worried about petty crime, Vietnam is going to be a little bit more on the higher side than Thailand. Like, I can park my motorcycle here in Thailand, and a lot of my friends do this. We accidentally leave our keys in the ignition. We can come back hours later and it's still going to be there. I've heard from people who have lived in Vietnam, you try that there and that motorcycle's gone. Not all the time, but there's a good probability that somebody might drive off with it. Now, as far as violence, I'm going to say that it's a dead even with both countries. There's very little violence against foreigners in both countries. Is it perfect? No, but you're not going to go anywhere on this planet to where it's perfect. Next, let's look at the digital infrastructure. So what's the internet like, phone speed, and all that good stuff? Well, good news. Both of these countries are good for their phone, and they're also good for their internet speed. The Asians love their internet, so they're my kind of people. So either one of these, if you're a digital nomad or somebody who is on the computer or the phone a lot, you're gonna love both these countries. They're both really solid. So I hope this helps you decide between these two countries. What gave me the idea is I did a comparison between Thailand and Albania that did really well. So we're going to have various videos coming on this channel where we're comparing Thailand to other countries that are affordable or as affordable as Thailand is. So that's all I have for you right now. If you feel so inclined, buy us a coffee. We'd really appreciate it. There's a link down in the description. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe, we'd love to have you in the Narrowgate family. So please subscribe. We'd love that. So that's all I have for you right now. And I'm going to say thank you in Thai, which is Kap Kun Kap.